investigation into singer David has intensified after the body of a teenager was discovered in a Tesla that has been linked to him.
This Celeste and David case just spiraled from dark to downright chilling. The feds finally laid out their so-called airtight timeline, meant to prove David was reckless with Celeste, but just when people thought the story couldn't twist any harder, his own brother Caleb barged in with a bombshell. He's now claiming the feds' timeline might not even be solid. So here's what went down. The feds pieced together a timeline that paints David in the worst possible light, making him look cornered with no way out. According to their version, things kicked off back in late 2021 or early 2022 when David first met Celeste online through Fortnite. Investigators say she was only around 12, while David was in his mid-teens, already setting off alarms that the authorities were not about to ignore. Then comes March 28, 2022. David drops a track called Decide. And here's where it gets wild. In the song, he raps about "Save your tears, 7 years." Fans immediately pounced on that line, claiming it was a coded reference to Celeste's age difference. Whether that was intentional or not, the lyric is now being dissected like evidence in a courtroom. He was basically hinting he'd wait until she hit 18. Creepy doesn't even begin to cover it. Then fast forward to September 7th, 2022, Celeste's birthday, and boom, David drops a track called Romantic on that exact same day. Now sure, artists love to tie music to real life moments, but the feds flagged this move as way too deliberate, way too close for comfort. By October, things heat up even more when Discord chats leak. David is literally asking, "Is Celeste in here?" And she responds. That, right there, had investigators circling in tighter. Then 2023 rolls around and it starts spiraling fast. A Twitch stream pops up showing David joking with Celeste about controversial stuff. But the second he realizes the heat, he panics and orders her to delete the VOD.
This album is my life. Like, Withered is my life. Petals of Thorns and Lost Petals are what I wanted my life to be, and then Withered is my life.
That one clip alone had the feds side-eyeing him like crazy. Jump to February 2024. Celeste's mom officially reports her missing for the first time. Around that same period, commenters are already calling David out, saying things like LAPD's gonna catch him for messing with a 13-year-old. And if that wasn't bad enough, photos surface of them together that exact same month. Every time she goes missing, proof pops up showing she's still around him. Spring 2024, same pattern. She disappears, reappears, then vanishes again. By June, she's gone, but by August, she's spotted backstage at David's show. Discord users even start demanding, "Drop the one with the missing girl." The internet receipts are stacking up and the feds are watching every move. The internet had already sniffed it out before the cops even caught up. But then, it takes a sinister turn. September 2025, a body is discovered, dismembered, and stuffed in the trunk of a Tesla registered to David. You can see why the feds lined this up as the final nail in his coffin. From there, it's a domino effect. Police storm his manager's house, his label instantly severs ties, and David starts panicking, scrubbing his Reddit posts and locking down his Fortnite stats so no one can track his moves. By then, the timeline looked airtight, every breadcrumb pointing right back to him. But here's the shocking twist. This is the same timeline the feds are betting everything on, and David's own brother Caleb is tearing it apart. Caleb claims those dates and so-called receipts don't prove guilt at all. They prove someone carefully staged this whole thing to frame David. That flips the case upside down, right after investigators were celebrating their big timeline win. And just when you think that's wild enough, whispers explode online. Rumors suggesting Caleb himself might actually be working hand in hand with the cops. Betrayal or strategy? Nobody knows yet, but it's throwing gasoline on a fire that was already blazing. People aren't just saying Caleb stepped back from David, they're whispering that he might actually be working with the cops. Some Reddit threads even flat out accuse him of snitching, tying his own lyrics to Celeste and suggesting he knew way more than he ever let slip.
Why are you calling? Why are you calling me and say sorry? I didn't want to go and change the narrative and say something completely different.
If that's true, Caleb wouldn't just be the brother throwing shade, he'd be the brother helping investigators build the very case that could bury David. And let's be real, Inside the hip-hop world, that word snitch hits like a grenade. Some fans see it as betrayal of the bloodline, while others are cheering it on as straight-up justice. But here's where it all started. Reports began circulating that Caleb was quietly cooperating with police, disturbed by the allegations circling his brother. At the same time, Reddit detectives were busy dissecting his songs, swearing certain bars lined up perfectly with what allegedly went down between David and Celeste. Then comes the kicker. A blurry photo surfaces online, supposedly showing Caleb backstage with Celeste at one of David's concerts. That image lit the internet on fire, sparking questions no one can shake. Did Caleb know what was happening? Did he stay silent? Or is he only stepping forward now to scrub his name before things explode even worse? For the moment, nothing is officially confirmed. LAPD hasn't gone on record about Caleb's cooperation. But their silence, it's only making the whispers louder and the conspiracy theories. Some outlets are flat out reporting that Caleb's been working hand in hand with the authorities. And once that headline hit, people ran wild with it. Whether it's solid fact or just clout-chasing journalism, the damage is already done. Caleb's name is officially tangled in the mess. But let's keep it real. If Caleb is cooperating, what's his true angle? Is he just scrambling to distance himself before the feds start pulling strings that connect the whole camp? Don't forget, David's manager already had his house raided, and the label cut him loose without hesitation. Everyone closest to David is already bailing. So Caleb stepping in as the informant brother could mean one of two things. He's either protecting himself or he's actively putting the final shovel of dirt on David's grave. And here's where it gets grim. If Caleb really is handing over info, then all those eerie song lyrics, those late night voicemails, even the tattoos he flashed online, they stop looking like weird coincidences. They start looking like receipts. Receipts that could be the very evidence pushing David's case over the edge. But before anyone stamps Caleb as the certified snitch, the internet's buzzing with even wilder rumors, and those might flip this whole story inside out. From the start, this case has been drowning in false leads, viral posts, and straight-up misinformation that keeps muddying the water. The first wild one, that viral pregnancy rumor. A single post on X racked up more than 2.5 million views, claiming Celeste was pregnant when she died, and that infant remains were supposedly discovered near David's home. That claim detonated across the fan base. Suddenly, people were saying this wasn't just a toxic relationship gone wrong, it was something way darker. But here's the hard truth. That rumor has been completely debunked. No forensic proof, no official reports, nothing from law enforcement backing it up. Just pure internet fiction that blew up because fans were desperate for answers. Then came the second firestorm, the narrative about Celeste's aunt, and this one, messy as hell. Screenshots surfaced showing her posting shoutouts, flexing her new talent badge, and treating the tragedy like some twisted content hustle. Some folks called it blatant clout chasing, while others argued maybe it was just a strange way of coping. Either way, it had fans side-eyeing the entire family dynamic like crazy. This non-stop swirl of fake leads, shady family moves, and viral posts has made it nearly impossible to separate fact from noise, and the chaos keeps feeding the conspiracy machine. All this chaos just makes it harder and harder to tell fact from fiction. On one side, you've got federal investigators quietly piecing together a homicide case. On the other, you've got self-styled internet detectives tossing out unverified theories, half of which turn out to be fake. It's a complete mess. But here's the twist. This chaos might not be random at all. Think about it. When timelines get flooded with rumors, the real evidence sinks to the bottom. If someone wanted to cover their tracks or throw people off the scent, drowning the internet in lies would be the easiest way to do it. So the question now is chilling. Are these false claims just desperate fans reaching for answers or part of a bigger play to cloud the case? And this is where things get truly disturbing, because while the internet's busy chasing false leads, the creepiest evidence may have been sitting right in plain sight the whole time, buried inside David's own music. What's surfacing in his texts and tracks feels less like coincidence and more like a confession. If the timeline and Caleb's rumors weren't already dark enough, the most explosive clues might actually be hiding in David's lyrics and interviews themselves. Once you start dissecting David's every lyric, hidden voicemail, and even those raw emotional breakdowns on stage, it all stops looking like art and starts feeling like evidence. And when you zoom out to his background, the picture only gets darker. David grew up under lock and key, pulled out of school, homeschooled, and raised inside a strict, hyper-religious household where control ruled every corner of his life. He even confirmed those details himself in an interview with Dazed. But whispers say the warning signs were flashing early, long before the fame. As a teenager, he was already obsessed with blood, death, and violence. And isolation, plus hours of video games only seemed to sharpen those twisted fixations. Then fame came knocking. He blew up online, the cash started pouring in, and suddenly, his parents let him off the leash. That newfound freedom mixed with his growing obsession with Celeste, and fans believe it became the recipe for disaster. To him, Celeste wasn't just a girlfriend. She was the center of his entire twisted universe, the muse of his madness. The most chilling theory, that David killed her sometime between October and January, either right before or immediately after finishing his last album. And when you line up the lyrics with the timeline, it paints a picture darker than anything the feds could have written themselves. And when you dive into the content of that last album, the lyrics, the interviews, the way he spoke, the chilling theory doesn't sound so far-fetched anymore. In one interview, David dropped a line that now feels eerie in hindsight. "That's what I feel from my art. It's beautiful for a time, so my music is only here for a temporary time. Withered is the process of going back to where I came from." He went on to admit, "I wanted the album to sound like a goodbye, an ascension into the next era, or whatever I'm doing next." At the time, it just sounded like artistic talk, but looking back, fans are asking the question no one wants to say out loud. Was that goodbye about his career, or was it about Celeste herself? He also wouldn't stop referencing the invisible string theory and the Korean concept of jong, a deep, emotional bond that clings tight even when the relationship is toxic. David himself admitted the irony. The very person who taught him this begged him, "Don't leave me," yet in the end, she was the one who left anyway. Now fans can't help but wonder if those words were art or a veiled confession wrapped in melody. And now that she's gone from his life, it's almost impossible not to connect every lyric back to Celeste. Then comes the flower symbolism. His project, Withered, suddenly shifts into talk of a deluxe edition called Japanese Lily. And here's the kicker. In Japanese culture, the red spider lily isn't just a flower. It's a symbol of death, mourning, and the painful separation between life and death itself. It blooms right as summer fades into fall, that moment of transition. So was this just a poetic metaphor for David's artistic evolution, or a chilling nod to Celeste's fate? But the biggest smoking gun for a lot of fans isn't just the imagery, it's the sound of her actual voice. Scattered across his tracks, in songs like I Never Needed You and So Long, Goodbye, you can literally hear Celeste's voicemails. She's crying, drunk, apologizing, saying she misses him. In one haunting clip, she tells him, "You're always the one calling my phone. You have to figure out what's going on with you. Those raw recordings don't sound like studio tricks. They sound like pieces of a real-life tragedy frozen in melody." It all starts to form a chilling picture, a girl trying to break free and a boy who refused to ever let go. Then comes the SoundCloud track, Satan's Pursuit, and it's even darker. Dropped in late 2023, David raps, "It kills me slowly, day by day. I need to find somewhere to clean my thoughts, but I'm not happy at all. I let Satan pursue me. I still miss you the way it was before I threw my life away." Was that a real-time confession hiding in plain sight? Because it wasn't just his recordings sending shivers down people's spines, his live shows started going off the rails too. In April 2025, during the BandLab experience, David completely broke down, sobbing in the middle of Afterlife and unable to finish the song. Then again, that June, he performed the same track live and collapsed into another breakdown right on stage. Fans still can't decide if they were witnessing grief, guilt, or both. But it left the entire audience rattled. And when you add it all up, the birth date releases, the flower of death imagery, the invisible string theory, Celeste's actual voice embedded in his tracks, and his public meltdowns on stage, it stops looking like coincidence. To a growing number of fans, this isn't art anymore. It's obsession immortalized in music, a living soundtrack to something far darker than anyone imagined. And that takes us straight into the darkest theory yet, that David kept Celeste hidden for months, then dumped her body in a Tesla, hoping it would eventually get towed and destroyed before anyone ever found her. Some fans even argue maybe he wanted to get caught, because why else would he scatter so many disturbing clues across his music, interviews, and live shows? But here's the bigger, scarier question. If David really was spiraling like this, did the people closest to him, his management, his label, even his inner circle, know more than they ever let on? And if they did, how deep does the cover-up go? Because as much as fingers are being pointed at David, the spotlight is now swinging to the people who were supposed to be in control of his career. Let's start with Josh Marshall. David's manager. The feds raided his house immediately after Celeste's body was identified. Think about that. Why would investigators storm the manager's home unless they believed he was tangled up in the mess too? And here's where it gets even uglier. Fans are claiming Josh and the label weren't blindsided at all. Allegations are flying that they enabled David's behavior, and some say they were even warned about Celeste being a missing minor as far back as 2024. If that's true, then this case isn't just about David anymore. It's about a whole machine that may have protected him while a tragedy unfolded in plain sight. If that's true, then Josh can't play dumb, because Celeste wasn't just some random fan. She was a reported missing minor who kept popping up at David's shows, hanging backstage with his crew, all while still underage. Anyone in David's circle could take one look at her and know she was too young. The fake IDs, the fact she couldn't even drive, yet still showing up in concert photos. Those were giant red flags nobody could ignore. So why didn't anyone step in? The theory is ugly, but simple. The money was flowing, and the people around him chose to look the other way. And it gets even shadier. Right after the LAPD searched David's rented apartment, reports say Josh immediately ended the lease. Fans saw that as a cleanup move, a way to erase evidence before investigators could dig deeper. The label wasn't far behind either. They dropped David almost instantly, like they knew the storm was about to hit and wanted out before the fallout landed on them. And this is where Caleb re-enters the picture. If his brother really is cooperating with law enforcement, investigators might not be narrowing in on just David. They could be widening the net to scoop up everyone in his orbit, management, the label, even his own family. Nobody in that circle looks untouchable anymore. Caleb pulling back, or even feeding investigators, might be his way of slipping out of the blast zone while Josh and the label scramble to keep their own names clean. But here's the bottom line. David's not the only one in the hot seat anymore. His entire circle is getting dragged through the mud, and the deeper this case unravels, the harder it is to believe this was just one artist losing control. To a lot of people, it's looking like a whole system was built to shield him, until the lies collapsed and the truth got way too loud to hide. What do you think? Was David the mastermind of his own downfall, or was the machine around him just as guilty? Drop your thoughts in the comments, smash that like, hit subscribe, and share this video so you don't miss the next chapter in this insane story. See you on the next one.